This is Geek Gab with your hosts, Dorrinal, Brian Niemeier, and me, Daddy Warpig. We are back. That's right, Geek Gab for Sunday, November 22nd, 2015. The Thanksgiving episode of Geek Gab, or the pre-Thanksgiving episode of Geek Gab. Let me pause for a moment and let my co-hosts say hi. Brian, is there anything you're particularly grateful for this Sunday?
Yes, I am grateful that I'm finally done with my second book.
All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm trying to keep it on track for a Christmas release, and it's in my artist hands mostly now, but we'll see what we can do.
Awesome. So,
In the meantime,
how long is it?
let's see. It clocked in at 462 pages, including like the prologue, title page, and back matter in MS Word. I can tell you exactly. While I'm looking it up, I will say that right now is a great time to buy the prequel Ethereal, because if you start Ethereal now, you should finish it, because it's like 611 pages, just in time to start Soul Dancer when it comes out.
And the link to Nefarial to buy it on Amazon is down in the description of the video, so there's no excuses. It's easy to get.
And I was going to say something about that. I'm happy to hear that you've got it a little shorter, because I was showing the book to my dad. I was like, oh, I've been meaning to read this. My dad, who's in town visiting for Thanksgiving, and I'm like, you know, now that I'm really thinking about it, this is a really large book, and I flipped to the back, and of course it's over 600 pages, and I'm like, Brian, you madman, what have you done?
Wrote 600-page book apparently, but yeah.
I love it, man. Don't start small, right?
Exactly. Well, it's the first installment in the series. There's a lot of setup and world building I've got to do, explaining the magic system, introducing characters. So hopefully Soul Dancer will be my Empire Strikes Back, which largely succeeded because it is one of the most tightly edited movies ever, and you hit the ground running. Everything's been introduced. You can just pick up right away. So setting the bar high. But yeah, Soul Dancer's second book is 113,000 words, or 462 MS Word pages, double-spaced.
116,000, that's not bad. That's a good size for a book. Let me tell you, I am listening to the first book of the Stormlight Archives on audiobook, Brandon Sanderson's series. What is it, Way of Kings? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
And it is slow. He's taken 4 chapters for a girl to arrive at a city, walk up to a palace, talk to somebody, walk to a library, talk to the same person again, go to a bookstore, and come back and talk to them a third time. Jeez. And that's 4 chapters. 4.
Wow.
Yeah, but are they small chapters?
I'm listening to it on audiobook. I have no idea what, big or small is on audiobook. All I know is it takes forever to get through one of these chapters on audiobook. Lots longer than it would take me reading it. But that's the only thing I can really do when I'm at the gym is listen to audiobooks. I have my little iPod shuffle with me, and I listen to audiobooks. And this is the one real book I have. All the other ones were like short stories.
You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of since I've got D&D on the brain, that reminds me of that player in your play group who wants to role play what they had for breakfast that morning. That's what that reminds me of.
He just wants to go on and on and on about every little thing.
Oh. But yeah, I think I remember Dan Wells teasing Brandon Sanderson on writing excuses that one day Sanderson's going to write a book that is just a perfect cube.
I don't understand.
It's for the size.
Like
its thickness will be the same as its length. Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
But yeah, I checked, and Soul Dancer's 27,000 words shorter than Ethereal, so there you go.
Cool.
90,000 is a pretty fast read.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I just, you know, I'm used to like Larry Correa novels now. I've gotten used to them, to where, you know, if he goes 5,000 words without some kind of fight scene breaking out, it is really unusual, and you start to get twitchy. I've read like 3 Robert E. Howard stories in the last week. Only one of which was Conan, and I've only halfway read the Conan story. But man, he has action and plot twists all over the place. He packed more plot in this tiny little short story. I think it's called The Lord of Death. He packed more plot in this tiny little short story than Sanderson has put any in the first part of The Way of Kings. I want things to happen that are things happening, not just people talking and occasionally drawing stuff. It's just not exciting to me. Fortunately, I got the audiobook for free, so that mitigates my annoyance at the thing.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Nowadays, readers want 2 things. They want character, and they want conflict. Luckily for all its length, no one's accused my book of being slow. So, I've succeeded where Brandon failed. There's my hubris showing again.
So, how was your D&D game this week, Dorrinal?
It was good. Game keeps going. Oddly enough, despite exploring like 3 or 4 new rooms and fighting some new monsters, one player felt that that progress has been slow, which is weird. And another player has been caught numerous times staring at her cell phone, which doesn't make sense. Because rewind to a couple of hours before, I had a few players cancel, so I couldn't get a response from the other players, so I actually canceled the meeting request in Outlook, and she shows up at my desk going, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I was like, you didn't respond, so I thought we only had 2 players, so I canceled the game. So fast forward, 3 hours later, and she's staring at her cell phone and barely paying attention to when it's her turn, and so I'm like, I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, that seems kind of odd to me. That you'd be like excited to play and demand that someone play, but then like not pay attention to the game. That seems a little odd.
Yeah, I get I talked to her the next morning. Got the impression that she was really excited for the game, but when it comes down to nitty-gritty turn-based sort of, especially combat's not really the most exciting thing for her.
See, the thing about combat is the only way to make it short is to make sure your players don't really have any options to choose from. That they have one main attack, and they don't have to make any decisions on defense, and that way they just say, okay, I attack, they roll, and you go on. That can literally cut down a combat to like 10 or 15 minutes with multiple combatants. But the more choice players have, the more options they have in combat, the slower combat goes, because they will always stop and talk about what's the best possible, most efficient move for them to do right now.
Yeah.
Even if they're not talking about it, they'll be thinking about it. So it's a dagger in the heart of certain genres, because, okay, where it is required to have combat options is in 2 places. One, spellcasters need to have a variety, 2 to 5 cool things they can do in combat, mostly anytime. And martial artists need to have lots of different cool things to do, because that's the flavor of watching a martial arts show or reading a martial arts comic or a martial arts book, is they have different maneuvers they can do at any time, because those are their powers. That's where the interesting little toys that the character concept comes up with. So if you add those things into a martial arts game, it makes it more like what people expect from playing martial artists. But at the same time, it slows combat down, which makes it the exact opposite of the high action you're supposed to be getting out of martial arts role-playing. So it's an annoying conundrum.
I think you just hit upon why I hate monks in D&D, and it's not just the sort of the dissonance between the settings. It's that they're supposed to be martial artists, but they don't have a really good niche in the game. And when it comes to combat, what do? They either punch or they stun, right? They either punch or they stun. I don't understand.
You're talking about AD&D monks.
Well, even 3rd edition. I mean, I know that they can use feats to do things, but so can anybody else, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you just, I don't know. It's you have to, and I'm saying this because I'm working on developing a setting that's heavy on martial arts. It has to be. And you just run up against the fact that if players can make choices, it'll slow the game down. And you have to be kind of good with that. You just have to kind of accept that, so people can say, well, I'm not getting 15-minute combats. You're like, well, that's because you have more than 2 things to do in the same round.
Well, another thing I'm running into that's sort of slowing the pace of the game is that I think the quality of actions and the quality of decisions and the density of good quality decisions is really low. I'm having trouble sort of framing the game such that everything they do and say sort of is meaningful. There's one guy sort of always off trying to do his own thing, and instead of like paying attention to what is going on in the dungeon itself.
Yeah, players who zone out, depending on who they are, there isn't a whole lot you can really do to gather them in, other than attacking them. I found that focuses players' attentions really, really well.
Yeah. The other thing that I found helpful for dealing with, the competition between social media and your game, because, I mean, let's be honest, unless you're some sort of savant, that's a contest you're going to lose, is not just try to quash it, but at the beginning of every session, especially if you've got new players every time, just tell them, okay, I've spent time writing and preparing this game for you guys. Now, I don't expect every word that comes out of my mouth to be the single most important thing happening in your life right now. Okay? However, if something bad happens to your character that was clearly declared, that I mentioned in my normal indoor voice and gave you the chance to hear, and you missed it because you had your nose buried in your iPhone and your character suffers negative consequences, that is on you. No do-overs.
Yeah, if you're not paying attention, your character isn't paying attention.
Right. I love it.
Yeah, and then just enforce that. Because I used to have a dude who would have his laptop open and be playing MUDs during my game, and I'd declare something, and the rest of the party would hear it, and he'd look up and be like, huh? So I'd have to say everything twice, and finally, I just stopped. And he was like, huh? What happened? I just didn't say anything. Like, you guys can tell him I'm not. And that improved his focus considerably.
Yeah, that sounds like it was. All right. We didn't really actually have a topic to discuss today, because the one thing that I've done recently, most recently, is something I bet neither of you have done, which is watch Jessica Jones.
What is Jessica Jones?
It is the new Marvel TV series on Netflix. Jessica Jones, Daredevil, and then in the future, Luke Cage, who is also known as Power Man, and Iron Fist, who is oddly enough, a martial artist, are also going to get their own series on Netflix. And then the 4 of them team up to form the Marvel group The Defenders, and that's also going to be a Netflix series. So they're kind of the street-level Avengers.
Okay.
I heard a description about it where, Green Lantern is responsible for the entire galaxy. Superman defends the entire country. The Avengers defend America. and then you have Batman defends all of Gotham City, and then you have Daredevil micromanaging the shit out of 8 blocks in Manhattan.
That's about right.
Well, I kind of liked the Daredevil show, and it, although I didn't really last more than I think 3 episodes. How does Jessica Jones compare?
It's not as good as Daredevil. It's not as fun as Daredevil. They've done some really interesting things as far as plotting and setting things up in earlier episodes that I didn't expect to pay off that did pay off. And it's also really, really violent and grimy. The first episode just left me kind of feeling sick, kind of feeling dirty, like I needed to take a shower. It was gross. And I don't know. Aesthetically speaking, I didn't like it. I appreciated the things they did with the plot. That was really interesting, how things paid off. But I think they went too far with a lot of stuff. And it's because the Jessica Jones comic book was part of Marvel's, I think it's their adult-oriented line, that is, so they could do like explicit violence and things like that, and because it was for sale to people who are older than 13. I think it's the Max series, but I could be wrong about that because I never really read them. So a lot of the stuff that shows up in the 13 episodes of the show are things that come right out of the Jessica Jones comic book. She used to be a superhero, had a costume. I'm talking the comics now, not the TV series. She used to be a superhero, had a costume and everything, had some bad stuff happen, so she became a private detective. So that's who she is in this Netflix series, is she's a private detective. Although after the first few episodes, she does less and less private detecting as other things come to take the fore. So, I don't know. I would not, depending on who you are, if you didn't mind the kind of stuff that I just got tired of seeing, then you'd probably be okay. But I got tired of it pretty soon, so I watched the whole series, but I wouldn't recommend it to people who, at one point, a guy gets his arm taken off screen. You don't see it, but you see him lying there on the ground, and they show you his socket where his arm used to be. You can see bone and stuff, and then another guy's trying to grind it up in a sink. So
What?
Yeah.
So this is Marvel trying to go after a slightly older audience. By that they mean slightly older teenage boys with shit that shocked us all in 7.
Yeah.
It's not as dark and dirty as 7, but it's way towards that end of the scale than anything else in the Marvel media so far. And they could only do this on like cable, like HBO or Netflix. They wouldn't get away with it on network television.
Yeah, and was Marvel Knights by chance the line of comics you're thinking of, Eddie Warpig?
I absolutely do not know.
Well, that's a nice cat in the chat has informed
Max,
us.
no, it's Max. It's
Okay.
Marvel Max. I'm looking at a cover of it right now. Max Comics, explicit content. I don't know how explicit. Again, I haven't read them, but certainly a lot more than you would get in normal Marvel comics. So.
Okay. I had not heard of that one either.
I guess that's a mixed recommendation. If the kind of stuff that's in it isn't, if that doesn't bother you, non-nude sex scenes, there's several of those that show up in the 13 episodes. Yeah, it's pretty dark. So, and I know they did it on purpose, but it just wasn't what I was looking for in a Marvel series.
I was kind of surprised at the Daredevil show itself. I mean, I thought Dark had sort of been played out, but so I was really surprised to see Daredevil come out the way that it did. with all the the extra blood and gore and everything. And you said fun, which really that stuck with me. How was Daredevil fun at all?
I don't know. I enjoyed it. I
Yeah, I
love the
loved
fight
it.
scenes.
Yeah,
When
I
they were
love the whole thing.
Yeah, when they were discussing things in the office and they were having the witty repartee between him and his partner and their new secretary, and
Oh, okay, yeah. I guess some of that was fun-ish.
I just
I
like the
enjoyed
Wilson piece.
Daredevil. I didn't enjoy Jessica Jones. Is that?
I
Does
guess
that
I, I
make
guess
sense?
I get it.
Oh yeah, David Tennant is in Jessica Jones. He plays the main villain, a guy named Kilgrave, and he was Doctor Who a couple of doctors ago. So he's another person who came out of the BBC, got a lot of notice for doing his BBC series, and then jumped over to other stuff. Like Sherlock Holmes, Dorrinal's favorite actor.
Benny Batch.
Yeah. Who is going to be Dr. Stephen Strange in the Doctor Strange movie that's coming out from Marvel in, I think, 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, I think they missed the memo. He was in all the movies, but he's not in all the movies anymore. So why would they cast him? That was a joke.
I was say it's Marvel. They can do the heck they want. They've gotten away with it so far. Let's see. Jessica Jones has Carrie-Anne Moss in it, who played Trinity in the Matrix series. If you remember the first Transformers movie, they had a hot blonde chick who was the Australian hacker. And that actress plays in Jessica Jones, has a big part. Her name's Patsy. She does some interesting stuff. It's got your detective from The Wire in it, the one who makes all the furniture for the...
Ah, yeah. Gosh, what was his name? I know that he played Detective Freeman on the show.
So he's in it. He plays a police detective in Homicide. So yeah, they're not hiring A-list actors, but they're hiring good actors with a solid career. Did you watch Breaking Bad?
Yes.
During the one season, I think it was season 3 of Breaking Bad, he hooks up with a pale, long black hair chick, and they do heroin together.
Sure.
Jesse
Yeah.
Pinkman does. She is Jessica Jones.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. So that's my pocket review. Is great plot. They did some interesting things that were surprising and kept me, guessing, but it gets too grimy and like disgusting in places that I just got sick of.
Well, I feel like your review has enabled me to make an informed decision on whether or not to watch Jessica Jones. So thank you.
Okay, so you thought Daredevil was like not fun? It was grim and gritty and not fun?
So it had its moments, and I guess it went from one extreme to the other, because I'll admit that the scenes where they got to just be, young lawyers trying to start a new business in the office, those scenes were lighthearted. The romance stuff that was going on between Bucky and what's her name, or Chucky or whatever, I didn't like those. They were fun, but I didn't like those scenes that much.
Foggy?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, but then, of course, the rest of it was this, grim, gritty, grim, dark fight for the soul of Manhattan, and I liked Vincent D'Onofrio's performance, but I didn't like the way the character was written, if that makes sense. It feels like the writers had an idea of what they wanted the Kingpin to be like, and he nailed it, but I didn't find that compelling or interesting or even believable as a villain.
What about it? And I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just kind of curious. What about it did you not? Why wasn't it believable?
So he's having trouble relating to people, especially people of the other sex, and I didn't find it believable that someone as ruthless and ambitious as that couldn't deal with other people. He's a kingpin. He's supposed to be a leader, and at least in the first 3 episodes, all I saw was a loser who was really tall and can beat someone's head into a pulp. And he nailed the performance. Like, I felt like that's exactly what they wanted, and I just turned to my wife and I was like, "This is stupid."
So they were trying to humanize him by making him awkward with women, but you felt like that didn't fit with the rest of who the Kingpin really should have been.
Yeah, I couldn't square that with the what he said he was up to. Like he was supposed to be this ruthless and everything, and it just. The guy that did send all the messages for him, the guy who could work with people, he felt like the real villain.
The lawyer dude.
Yeah.
Who's actually shown up in something else I just saw recently. But yeah, I thought he did a great job. I thought he pulled off that role perfectly because, and I think it might have been the very first scene in the entire series is he comes and sits down next to a park bench to a guy and just kind of terrorizes him really politely.
Mm-hmm.
You just felt menace from him at that point. He was almost like the Jew hunter character from Inglourious Bastards, if you've seen that movie.
Yep.
So, I can see that. The
one thing I did like, though, I will say that this really recommended it, and I almost kept watching Daredevil for this reason, was that fight scene in the hallway that they did in one take.
Yeah.
I didn't realize they did it in one take. I didn't realize that they were cutting in instead of... Because they had a bunch of cutaways to, alternate viewpoints, and normally that means that that's just a clever way of, doing multiple takes. But no, they did it like Hong Kong style, where they did the whole thing in one take, and they also shot alternate angles and just edited them together. And It was a beautiful, beautiful fight scene.
It was the best I've seen since Old Boy. Never seen that?
Never seen that.
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it, no.
Oh, we need to have you guys watch.
Tell me more.
Okay, the way that I heard Old Boy summed up the best was, it's one of those movies where your best friend, so in this case when he tells you, "You've got to see this movie," and then never watch it again. Because if Jessica Jones made Daddy Warpig feel kind of dirty, like he needed a shower, I mean, Old Boy, the end of Old Boy will induce crying game levels of nausea and perhaps germophobia. I mean, or whatever compulsory showering is. But yeah, it's intense, like the circus, intense.
Oh man, really?
Yeah, I went there. No, it's one of the best one-take hallway fight scenes where it's shot from a different angle than Daredevil is, where it's like cut away, the fourth wall is missing. You just watch this dude armed with a claw hammer walk down this hallway in one take, just hammer fighting like a couple dozen guys. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I know. Somebody spoiled the plot of Old Boy for me, and I'm just not going to. Now, are you talking about the South Korean Old Boy or the American remake?
There's only one Old Boy, the Korean one.
Yeah, somebody spoiled the plot of the American remake for me, and I don't want to watch it. That's just not.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's a different twist than the
Okay.
Korean one, but if the twist of the Korean one is such that if you knew, you would not want to watch it, but you must watch it, so don't find out what the spoiler is, and then you will never watch it again.
And is it in Korean and subtitled?
That's how I saw it, but
Okay.
Taku from way back, I love subtitles. Usually far prefer them to dubs. I'm a snob.
All right. Well, we are almost out of time. Any last words?
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Eat all the turkey.
Seconded.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. So the verdict tonight is buy Brian's old book. It's out now. When it comes out for Christmas, buy Brian's new book. Skip Jessica Jones unless you can stand some of the grimier, nastier things. It is not a bright, happy superhero series. And maybe check out the 2003 Old Boy South Korean movie. Did I forget anything?
No, but I did, actually.
Okay.
And it has to do with your publisher. There's yet another thread between you and I, professionally now, Daddy Warpig, because I've recently come to an agreement with Vox Day, the lead editor at Castalia House, for sort of a quid pro quo mutual promo. So I've not signed on to become a Castalia House author, but they've got a new book release coming out, I believe, by David the Good. It's another excellent gardening book. I believe the last one managed to hit #1 in its category. And I don't want to say too much, but just keep your eyes peeled on Castalia House and Fox's blog tomorrow, if you're interested.
All right. Well, there you go. A little bit teaser for something happening tomorrow on Castalia House. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. This is Geek Gab for Sunday, November 22nd, 2015, with your hosts, Dorrinal, Brian Niemeier, and me, Daddy Warpig. We will be back.